an iPad for you here.
Oh, like showing things.
It's that and for microphone.
Oh, okay.
So I need to move it closer to you. That'll be great.
Okay. Yeah, this seems louder than it was before.
It was louder than the other day. All right. Konnichiwa.
So, well, it's still sunny outside today, folks, so konnichiwa, everybody. Okay. So, it's pretty loud here, but let's get started. Hopefully it's not drowning me out too much. So, got lesson 6, just some odds and ends. I want to cover finishing off extra details on stuff that we've talked about before, and then introducing kind of some new stuff that's shorter that we can kind of start and finish today. This is our last session for this semester, as you want to call it, until the fall when we come back. Obviously, let me know any questions you have so we can cover, if you have any anything that maybe you've heard online recently, just some news about Japan. There has been a lot of news about Japan very recently. Once again, we can talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, anything at all, drop a question either in the chat or on your index cards, and probably we can go over it when we come back. So we'll have plenty of fresh material to go over. So starting first, money. I wanted to talk about money again, and I definitely forgot to bring my money again because I came immediately from work. I keep forgetting. But I'll just quickly, that's fine. Yeah, well, this is over. Very quickly, I did want to bring my money just to show you like the actual size of the dollar bills, of the yen. Like I said before, they're a little bit taller than dollars and also shorter. So it'll be a little weird if you're expecting it to fit the same in your wallet, which is why I said it might be good to try like a billfold or just something a little bit different. And I'll definitely bring the money one day before the trip to show you guys what it's like. And also I wanted to bring my the little coin purse I had, which it looks very well used after 2 years, and that's because it's very useful and necessary in Japan. So the coin purse is a big detail, and regrettably I forgot to put it today. Moving on from money, I do want to talk about bathrooms a little bit. It might seem like kind of like a random thing to mention, but obviously you're going to need one eventually, and better to not be surprised when you do. You don't want to be caught, in a bad time and be surprised. So, some things to note is the word for bathroom. It's toire, toire, toire. So it comes from the word toilet. So, if you say bathroom and you try to like katakana bathroom, it's going to be it's not really going to connect with people. If I said like bathroom, maybe people would know what I'm talking about, but toire is absolutely going to get the message across. There's other words that are like natively Japanese, like otearai, and other versions like that, but toire is the one that's just easiest, most understood, and it's only 3 letters, so it's actually easy for you to remember the pattern and be able to find it in public, if you really need to. And for how to ask, where is the toilet? Or where's the bathroom? Pretty important question. So it's going to be toire wa doko desu ka? Toire wa doko desu ka? So starting first, toire is what we're going to be asking about the subject of the sentence. And wa, like we said before, is just marking the subject. So toire wa, you're saying regarding the toilet, regarding the bathroom. Doko is the word for where. So doko, toire wa doko. And just to form that as a question, desu ka. So again, the ka is very important there to make it a question. So toire wa doko desu ka? And if you're lucky, it'll be very close and someone can point and you can go, shuffle away. And if not, there might be some instructions, pointing stuff. But Japanese people are generally very good at using sign language, or not sign language, using body language and hand gestures to point in the direction. So hopefully you won't have any trouble there. But that's a very important question to know. It really save you out there in the wild. We'll go over that a little bit later. But one thing to note, I think I mentioned this before, is that paper towels are not very common in public restrooms. I think that was especially true during COVID, when I would just never see any paper towels in public. So the common thing was just carry your own hand towel that you can get like at a convenience store, at a Daiso, and a store like that. Very affordable, and they are all over the place. Yeah, to dry your hands with. Sometimes they will have like the vent thing, but I know those aren't particularly like sanitary at times. So you can't go wrong with just having a hand towel, and they sell them everywhere, all kinds of patterns. So you'll be able to find one that you think, well, I'm just using it to dry my hands, but it'll be a nice keepsake for later. So it's not a bad idea to pick that up. Maybe hand sanitizer as well. I think that should still be in full effect in Japan, is hand sanitizer at every entrance. So you maybe not have to worry about that, but just be aware, because also soap might not be always refilled at public restrooms. Part of me thinks that that's another thing about COVID, where they said, oh, well, if we put soap in public, everyone will be using the same soap dispenser, and that's dirty. So no soap at all, but obviously that's also dirty. Weird situation, but hand sanitizer, your own towel, can't go wrong there with that. And the next thing that you might notice in the bathroom is the washlets or bidets. Kind of using interchangeably, but I think they mean different things. So you might have heard about Japanese toilets being some kind of high-tech technology, some high-tech machines, and they are a little bit. And it's we're going to go over that because it does take a little bit of know-how just to avoid any accidents. And
any of you use the bidet before? Played with one.
and it is different than like European bidets. I know, like in France and in Europe, I know I've seen like there's the toilet and there's a bidet next to it. This is like I think they call it washlet because it's all in one. It's a toilet that has buttons to do everything. And a lot of people that visit Japan will swear by it. They say this is the future. I don't know why every toilet doesn't have this. I think it's actually pretty nice. Like I didn't have one personally in my apartment in Japan, but everywhere in public you'll see them, like public restrooms, even just at like a convenience store, which you might think like, oh, how do they have the money for a fancy toilet? But they do. So that's something maybe look forward to, or you can avoid it. You can use it like a normal toilet too if you don't want to bother with all that. And another thing to be aware of is, I think I mentioned before, the squat toilets, like the old Japanese style toilets, which are much more intimidating than the bidet. So that's something to look out for. You might get lucky and roll and get the nice toilets, or you get the ones that are really scary. So
do most of the modern hotels have the regular toilets?
Yes, I would say for the most part, everywhere that is expecting tourists like at a high volume and isn't specifically a very traditional kind of experience will have a modern toilet.
So our itinerary, we actually stay in a ryokan. Mm-hmm. Do those tend to have squat toilets or regular toilets?
I think it depends how nice it is.
Okay. I'll have to take a look because they gave us. I have a list of hotels that they have partnerships with. Okay. So
is that in like the front, or I can imagine, or maybe Kyoto?
It is.
I think the places I've seen the Japanese style toilets more often is like very old restaurants where it's just the one guy running the ramen shop. He's not going to put in the money for a new toilet. But sometimes also I'll go to a very old ramen shop and they'll have a brand new toilet, and it's a really nice experience. So that's kind of rolling the dice. Yeah, you can let me know, and I'll look into that to see if you draw the bad part there, the short straw. But I think also like Japanese schools will for some reason always have one Western style toilet, like a normal one, and then one Japanese toilet. And none of the students ever used the spot one. Like they would just hold it if the other one was taken. So it's not particularly like people in Japan don't love it. It's just some of them are still around. So that's kind of the state of that. If you're lucky, you'll never see one and you won't get any problems. And if not, you might just have to go to the next stall over, and hopefully that's the thing. The bathrooms might not be all in one and all the other. One stall might be, you know, the Japanese one, and the next one over might be like the fancy Western style one. So maybe if you get surprised, maybe check one over and you might be all right. Let's see. Yes. So just to talk a little bit about both. Some pictures here. Let's start with the Japanese style. This is a very clean, nice looking one. You might not get this lucky for the Japanese style one. But for the bidet, it'll look like a normal bidet, but then you can see some panel, like there's an armrest or on the wall or something that has all of these features. And these are like, they all share the same basic features, but then they'll have individual differences. So big one to look out for is the stop button. They always have a square, like it's a video player, right? Where it's got the big red stop. So you always got a good way out. Don't have to worry there. So, and also the symbol for stop in Japan, so you'll be able to connect that once we start kind of picking up more kanji. And you'll see that one pretty often. It's even really small. Most things to look out for is there's usually two different spray settings. So this one has two, this one has three, and this one has three. The two main differences are a spray for your bum and a spray for ladies. So that's the difference. This one is actually called bidet when it's for ladies, and the other one is like a spray. And the difference should be pretty clear on the icons. One will have just like a little butt drawn on it, and the other one will usually have some kind of symbol to symbolize women. And
That's awesome.
yeah, that's
I'm just gonna say that's awesome.
It's another thing to look out for is yeah, I mean, yeah, you might just end up being like, oh, let me just spend another 5 minutes while I'm here just clicking all the buttons and figuring it out. And some of them you can see have a ton of buttons, and you might even have to pull out like Google Translate and just see what's going on. So for these that have the third like spray option, this one, they're represented with different symbols, but they say the same thing. This one is yawaraka and yawaraka. It's trying to mean it's soft, it's gentle, so it has a different water pressure of the bidet, which is good if it's maybe your first time using one and you don't want to be really surprised. I don't know how to describe it easily. There will be a different symbol, so we can go over like what these ones mean, so it's easier. For instance, the one for women will usually say in katakana, it says bidet, bidet. And obviously the letters look different to the other one, so you'll know that one's the bidet for women. And the other one, this one says oshiri, and here's all really small oshiri. Oshiri, that means butt, so that's for your butt. And
I'm just gonna, first time I go into a bathroom, I'm just gonna like push all of them and watch and see what happens.
Right. Well, most of them are like they're activated by actually sitting on it, so you're kind of strapped into the ride. yeah, or else you're gonna be spraying the wall. So it's a little bit faith there. You got to try it out.
It's a little worrisome though.
But then hopefully you get like the gentle pressure, and then it's not so scary. And they are generally nice. Like they have heated water, so you're not getting It's not like
Cold brushes.
right. It's not
Cold brush of
you
water.
know sitting down in the middle of winter. It's a little bit nicer than that. Even some of them have heated seats, which might be off-putting, you know, if you don't like that feeling. But it will be heated and not just because someone's just used it. It's heated seats. It's kind of strange for the first time, but you get used to it and you might really come to like it too. Let's see. Oh, so this one, you can see there's plus and minuses. So what you're changing there is water pressure. So because this one doesn't have the gentle, this one does, but it also has water pressure differences. So there's just different kind of models of the waves, obviously. So you can put the water pressure up higher or lower, and usually you'll have some indicator like this. Even this one, even though it doesn't show anything, will probably have some indicator of how hard the water pressure is. So if you go and see it's like 5 bars, you're like, you gotta put that down personally.
Before I sit.
Right. Let's see. Oh, this one has just way more features. This one lets you move the nozzle front or back more. This is more front and this is more back. Probably you're not going to see some crazy advancement like this. Most of them are like this. And this one has volume. You might think, why does the toilet have a volume button? It's because they play music. They have the option to play music. So you can have a little more privacy while you're doing your business. And it's usually like sounds of running streams or bird sounds or something like that. It's actually very nice, calming music, which you can put way up. And if you go in the bathroom and you just hear like blaring bird songs, it's just somebody chose to put it all the way up. And that's what's going on.
But I love that. Like, how often do you try to disguise the fact?
It's nice.
I
Yeah,
wait till someone flushes and I'm like, get out now.
it is. I like at the city hall where I would go sometimes for work. They built like a brand new city hall, brand new bathrooms, and everyone was excited for the brand new toilets that they had. And because it's kind of the bathroom was kind of like an open thing, and then the rest of the room, like you have your bathroom, you walk out, and then the rest is just the offices where everyone's working in an open concept. So you don't want all the bathroom just to be right there. So it was constantly the little bird noise, and it's kind of just like, all right, well, I'm not gonna think about it too much. We know what's going on in the bathroom. It's just, it's nice. It's like a little bit of privacy, even though. Oh, another thing to look forward to is the privacy of the sound. Also, for almost everywhere, they will have the door to the bathroom floor to ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Like civilized country. I don't know why we don't do it here. But
That
yes,
is
so
that is the one thing that other parts of the world wonder about. Is like why is our bathroom only like this, like our stall door this big?
why do they
Everybody
make it
else
so
is
a full-grown man can go under a bathroom stall?
Yeah.
It's a little bit exaggerated. So yeah, the nice like floor to ceiling door, nice private sound. It'll be sometimes the nice escape from the day to go into the bathroom. And as well, we have here, a little wavy in here as well. So that's going to be basically a fan to go in, mostly for like drying purposes. So you can have it air dry, which is interesting. And some of them also have like a deodorizer. So more than just the bidet, it's the whole toilet. It has a lot more features as well. It'll have some refillable deodorant kind of spray, which is nice. Obviously, other bathrooms just have like the normal blade thing that goes every 5 minutes or something. Let's see what else we have. This one really goes all out. I can't believe it. It has massage facility. It's got power, something like extra power. It's crazy. Hopefully you don't get this one. I'm sorry if you do, but these are pretty simple.
Sorry if you do.
Also, big flush, small flush, middle flush, just basic stuff.
Do they put toilet paper in the toilets?
Yes, yeah. Luckily, Japan's place, toilet paper will be there. You can flush it. Don't have to worry about all that. Even these, toilet paper right there, so it should be fine. Let's see what else. Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, this one just really does too much. It has nozzle cleaning, a different setting for nozzle cleaning. It's too much altogether. And I'm sure you can look up a YouTube video and kind of get an explanation well, different things if you still have questions. So moving on. So we talked a little about how to ask where the toilet is. Toire wa doko desu ka? So doko means where. And we kind of build on that. Now that we're asking locations and we know how to say where, let's learn here, there, and so on. So yes, if we're looking for here, right here, very close to the speaker, we're talking about koko. Koko. We have doko and koko. Koko, koko. So tiny thing.
There.
Well, that one's here, yeah. And then there would be soko. So like we talked about last time with the kore, yeah, kore, sore, are, the differences between you talking about, describing a subject at different distances from you. These words also follow the same pattern. So we have the koko for here, the soko for there, and that's meant to be somewhere. It can be far away, but it kind of depends on the context of the sentence you're using, and that's because there's also the over there. So, if I'm talking about a book on that shelf and I said there, soko, that's fine. And if I'm talking about the next shelf over, it wouldn't be weird to use asoko, like it's a little bit further, or if it was across the room, that's over there. You kind of use your judgment there on which one to use, but these are helpful for when you ask the question, toire wa doko desu ka? Someone's going to say, asoko, and then like this way, and then that way, and you're like, okay, I got it. So those are the 4 basic ones: where, here, there, and over there. Yes. Plural doesn't really exist in the same way in Japanese, so I would think not something that immediately comes to my head for saying bees, separate from this or those or anything like that. There's other words that are added on. Yeah, it really is. This is where Japan comes into being a very contextual language, because if you're asking me where is the pen, I could say the pen is here. And if you're asking me where are the pens, I would still just say the pens are here, and it's the same kind of thing. It's strange.
So they don't pluralize the
No, not in the same way. Not at all, but there are ways to pluralize things. Like for instance, when you're talking about people.
So you would say just say like many people rather than like 50 people or something like that. It's just rather than people or person,
right?
It'd be person like many.
Yeah, like if you were addressing a group of many people, not even addressing, but just talking about them as a subject, you might pick something that describes them all, and then there's another word called tachi. It's the same as tomodachi. So tomodachi and tachi, the same letter there, the same kanji. So, if I'm saying like you, anata, and some do this and that, and then I'm talking about all of you, I would say anata tachi, like just all of you. You people, like you group, basically. So yeah, there is a concept of plural things, obviously, but it's just described differently in the language. And we go over that in future lessons as well. I'll write that down actually, plurals and addressing people. Very good question, yeah. Let's see here. Then, toire wa doko desu ka? We have toire is the subject, so you can change that out for whatever you're looking for. Just remember that to add the ka to signify that you're asking a question, that's the question mark phonetically. So if you're looking for a 7-Eleven, you could say like 7-Eleven is basically the same way they say it. They say 7-Eleven, because the E's don't quite line up the same way. So 7-Eleven wa doko desu ka? And chances are it's right there. And so on, we'll learn some different words here soon that might be helpful for asking But that's a very basic phrase. It's very useful because you're going to want to know where things are, obviously, not get lost. Yeah, very useful, very simple. Yep, and then again, you can just change that, and that's asking about anything. So moving on, I want to talk about katakana. And it's a good amount of time here, so that's nice. When we talk about katakana, it's one of the 3 alphabets in Japanese, and it's used a little differently because it's often used to describe loan words that aren't directly from Japanese. It's used to describe, it's used to write words that just are in other languages, but in Japanese. And it's used for other kind of smaller cases in Japanese, something like an animal name or scientific names for things, even if whether they're written in like a Latin kind of thing or they're written in Japanese, sometimes they might just choose to write it in katakana to separate it, kind of make it very clear in the sentence that it's different. It makes it easier to read. Sometimes if they're uncommon words that people won't immediately recognize, like, for example, if you're talking about animals, cat, very basic, people will know how to write that in Japanese, monkey, chicken, and so on. But if you're talking about anteaters, an anteater isn't really a very common animal, especially not in Japan. So that one, even though it's written in a Japanese word, will have katakana to show that it's, you can read it and look at it and recognize, oh, something's different here. Let me read that out. Okay, it's an anteater. It just kind of marks different words. Any questions there? So a big use for katakana, like I said, is for loan words. These are called gairaigo. Gairaigo. You might see this first kanji a lot. It is the kanji for outside. Gai or kai. So you'll see it, at an airport. You'll see it at exit signs. You'll see it a lot of places. So gairaigo means
Foreign words.
basically foreign words. This basically means language. It's go. Go means language. So language that comes from outside. The meaning comes from right left there. But yeah, they're foreign words borrowed from foreign languages. And for some words, it might be easy to guess the meaning because they'll keep it very similar to English, for instance, or the language that they're coming from. And even though they're very common in Japanese, they will often just have a normal, like traditional Japanese alternative that you could use. I'll go over that in a few samples later. But people will understand both. If you use the Japanese word for something, I'll use an example in the next slides. I don't want to give it away now. But people understand that. And if you use the foreign loaned word, people will understand that as well. It's not true for everything. For instance, let's just say something like strawberry. You could say sukroberi, and that, you might see that written out somewhere like at Starbucks because it's like, oh, it's written in a different language. It's like fancy, but the Japanese word for strawberry is ichigo. That's easier to say. People will say it, but they'll understand strawberry. It's just not the most common use. So
Like hamburger.
Yeah, like hamburger. Hamburger is a weird one because they have hambaga and hambagu.
Yeah.
And the difference is one is a hamburger and one is a Hamburg steak, like just the mincemeat kind of steak. And I always forget which one it is. I don't think even Japanese people know exactly which one is which every single time. You might go to a restaurant and see one on the menu described as the other and order and be disappointed when there's no buns on your hamburger or something like that. And you order a hambagu, but it'll have like carrots and broccoli on the side because it's served as a steak instead of as a hamburger. So that's something to look out for. If you're lucky, it'll say steak next to it, steaky. So you'll be like, oh, hamburger steak, that's not good hamburger. That's really interesting.
But it would be in kanji.
Oh no, it would be in katakana. Like,
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see some examples of that a little more often. Recently, it's kind of popular to use katakana, like loan words, in business settings, because I think if you're like working at an office and you start using these really long non-Japanese words, it makes you sound kind of like more important. You're like, oh, he really knows his stuff. He's using all those foreign words, and it'll be stuff like collaboration. Let's say collaboration or something like that. Like I'm trying to remember what it was a few years ago. A really big one, like SDGs or something like that. Sustainable Development Goals, and that was making big time waves in Japan. Just because it's like, oh, a cool buzzword. So they just say like, oh, SDG, like just saying it in a Japanese kind of way. And you know, I'm looking at, and I'm in Japanese context, I'm like, I don't know what that is.
It's like KPIs.
What is that?
It's a Toyota thing. It's something that Toyota uses to measure its. Elizabeth Arden uses it. It's KPIs. It's
Right.
like the production. How much are they producing per hour?
Right. Yeah.
So their indexes. So
some of them do have like context like that, where it'll be
right.
an industry standard that they're just bringing over,
Yeah.
and some of them are just kind of buzzwords to sound fancier, you know, more impressive than it might actually be. And again, those will just have normal Japanese words, but they might choose to use katakana because of a different kind of look in the music. So if you see katakana, it won't always be a loan word, and even if it is, it might not be from English. It doesn't exactly help your chances of guessing what that word means.
Could be German for all we know.
Right, could be German, Dutch, French, Spanish, probably even like Arabic and everything. They have a lot of influences. I know I was looking through a list, and they even had like, what was it? Like Sumerian or something like that. Like they take a lot of influences, and even from China. Yeah. For example, ramen. Ramen is written usually in katakana. And even though it's fully just like a Japanese thing, you know, the soup came from China originally, so they borrowed the word from China. And even though ramen is ramen, everybody in Japan knows what it is, they'll still write in katakana because historically they have.
Because it's originally
It's a foreign word, yeah. Okay. Even though if you think ramen, first thing you think of is Japan, historically there's a difference in that structure in katakana. Oh yeah, and like I said, other languages than English, so you might not always be able to really guess the meaning even if you can read the word. So I want to do a little activity here where we try to guess what these words mean. So just starting off, we're going to do some words from English, and these are fairly straightforward and easier to guess. So if you look, for example, if you've been studying your katakana, anybody have just a first guess what this might be? And if not, I've got to think on the next slide. That's fine.
Come on, be honest.
I don't know if you guys have your katakana sheet. That might be helpful.
Do you guys need katakana sheet?
Yeah,
have one?
So this is a word I wanted to give the example of earlier. Anybody have an idea? Yeah, usually once you get the hang of it, it's going to become a lot simpler. So I'll give you a hint here on this one, because we have some more examples.
Milk.
So it's going to be miruku. Miruku. Milk. Miruku is milk. So yeah, these will get a little harder.
It's gonna get harder.
Yeah, it's going to get a little bit harder. So miruku.
Like, are you kidding?
Right, it does sound, it'll usually sound like something else.
It sounds like miracle.
So miruku, right? It sounds like miracle, it sounds like just something else, but it's just milk. And that's, you know, because they can't do a solid L like that or a K with nothing after it. That's where those extra U's come from. And obviously that's like the stereotypical Japanese accent is adding U's and stuff. There's truth to that because obviously they don't have an L, so they use an R, and they don't have an L with nothing, so they have to use RU and KU. And like I was saying before, this is a word that has a Japanese word. The word in Japanese is gyunyu. Gyunyu meaning cow's milk. Gyu is cow, nyu is milk. So gyunyu. And then there's also, you can also, because nyu means milk, you can do other kinds of milk. Like soy milk will sometimes be like soy nyu, soy, or sometimes they'll have like the kanji for soy and then nyu, and so on. So it's used in a lot of different ways, but you might also see like flavored milks and it'll say ichigo, strawberry, miruku. So they're using both there. They're using Japanese in hiragana and then katakana for milk.
Are the other words found like easily? Are they common?
They're a lot more common than used to. Yeah, I think at a supermarket or even at a convenience store, you should be able to find at least soy milk fairly commonly. Other things like oat milk and so on. It might be harder. I think in cities like Tokyo, you'll have a good chance of finding them. And usually, somewhere like Starbucks will have all of the selections of milk because it's in their best interest to serve every customer. Okay, let's give it another shot. So we got this next one. Give it a try.
Hotel. Hotel.
Right, so we have
Hotel.
hoteru. Hoteru. Hoteru is hotel. You can see the following sentence. They have ho, they have te, and they just don't have the L, so it's RU there. Hoteru. Very helpful there. If you're ever lost, and hopefully you remember the name of your hotel, then you could say so and so hoteru wa doko desu ka? Hopefully someone will help you there. That's the next one. Hoteru.
Just laminate this and put it around.
It would be helpful, yeah. Also, Google Translate will do it. So let's try this one. The dash there at the end just means that the last sound gets elongated, usually the vowel sound. Got our first one. That ha. It's not wa. It might look close. It's got
Yeah.
ku. Ku. Sorry? It's gonna be she. And it's she is the long. So put it all together, it's takushi. What do you think is takushi?
Tacos.
It's taxi.
I'm hungry.
Tacos is luckily it's tacos.
Oh.
Tacos. It's a little bit of a bit, but it's taxi. You'll see this one pretty often, and that's helpful if you ever need to ride. So obviously there's no X, so you just approximate it with the KU. Takushi. Takushi. If you say it too fast, it might sound like someone's name, like Takashi or something. So yeah, it takes a lot of listening to hear the differences sometimes. Let's see the next one. This one should be easy to guess once you've tried the words out. Once you found the meaning. So there's that ha. It's not O. Me. Me. Kame.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, right. Kamera.
Camera.
Camera, yeah. So you can see, even though the sound you'll think, oh, C is fine. In Japanese, it is a K because they don't have a C. So there's no sound difference. You know, kamera, kamera, there's with a C or K, there's no difference. But when it's written in Japanese, they'll see it as a K. This one, a little bit harder. 4 letters this time. Oh, yeah. This is a good time to bring up that the little marks, they're called 10-10. They mean that the consonant sound of that letter is changing. So we can go over this one. If you find the original shape, I'll help out with the difference sound. So this is he, and with these 2 marks, it turns into a B. B, B-I. B. B. Can you find this one next? This one's not Su. Su is very similar to this letter. That's a tricky one. So this one, if you look across here, it's the same letter. So this one is she. She is the base. So change with the 10-10, it turns into G. G. The she is like that. They just change the sound in your mouth. So sh to G. So we have B, G. G. Yes. Yeah, Su. Yeah. This one. With that. B, G, O. Not O. Yes, ne. So put together, it's B, G, ne, Su. B, G, ne, Su. B, G, ne, Su. B, G, ne, Su. Any guesses? Yes, it's business. Business. So you can see there the BU. We know it doesn't make that sound. It's not business, it's business. So it's a business. Business. That one is extra hard there with the 10-10 to change it. Yes. Sorry? Yes, I think there might actually be another word for business card, but like we said before, because they're trying to sound cool and modern, they will be probably using business card. Sometimes just card is also good. And there's a bit of a culture around business cards. You gotta hand it out both hands and treat it respectfully. Yes, you've already got the holder. So that's something. If you plan on taking any business cards to Japan, study up on that first.
So when you have that accent mark, is it always going to, is he always be?
Yes,
or are there others that it could be?
With this accent, with the, like the quotes, kind of that one, it will always be B. It changes them in the same way. I think if it shows it on your thing, there's also the mark that looks like a circle. And that one, yes, that one changes sounds to P, like a closed mouth. So it might be at the bottom. Oh, on the right side.
So that's that.
Yeah, the
Dakuten.
10.
Dakuten and Han-dakuten. Basically, those are telling you how to move your mouth differently, and they will be the same for every consonant. So if you have B, if you have he, ha, ho, then it'll change to B, ba, bo with the first ones, and P, pa, po with the second ones. K-A. Yeah, it's oh, this one. Yes. And those are very useful, like the different marks, the Dakuten, Han-dakuten. They're very useful for getting words closer to how you want them to sound. So if you have a name that's not quite close, sometimes adding that will get it closer. For instance, anything with a D sound needs a
Cherry.
Teddy. Teddy. I think it might have a dash for the E, but it doesn't need any tense in it.
No 10 cents for cherry.
But your last name, well, not name yet. Your old last name would need them for the D is. Okay. Oh, let's give it one more try. This one might be easier for the reason, well, there is one tense in there, so look at
So there's an ah,
First one, ah. Yeah, ah sound.
E,
Ah. Yeah. So putting ah and e is I. Right, do. The last one, we see that one a lot. Idol. Do. Idol. Idoru. Idol is idol. Idol, like idol pop bands, they're very popular in Japan. You'll be hearing that one maybe a lot. Is idol.
You know, idol.
Right.
We're K-pop.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, he and I.
And K-pop a little bit different. Well,
No, we call them K-pop idols.
right, yeah, idol. I was gonna say a little bit different in the culture. I don't think that pop fans use the light sticks the same
Yes.
way. Okay, then yeah, culture's basically the same. Right? Yeah. So if you want to talk about your favorite K-pop, J-pop,
Well,
even
the
V-pop.
K-pop idols also sing J-pop.
Yeah, a lot of them, right? Like Blackpink has a lot of.
Blackpink, BTS, all the major ones, new ATs.
I've only heard. I think I know some of the K-pop idols when they're Japanese. Like I know Momo because from I think it's either Blackpink or Twice.
Yeah, she's Twice,
Twice. Yeah.
and she's
Japanese,
Japanese.
right.
They have 2 Japanese members.
Very impressive that they speak like 5 different
They
languages.
speak
It's
so many
crazy.
different languages.
So okay, so those are our simple ones. They get a little bit harder, but we can. If you give up or something, we'll just go. So let's see. These are still from English.
I'm liking this.
So these are harder because it's going to be harder to find out the connected the meaning. Reading them isn't particularly hard. That's good. Terebi. Any idea what terebi is? It's
The TV.
TV, television. So terebi is television. You can see it's difficult to figure out because they didn't just say television, they said TV and turned that into katakana. So TV, they could say TV. Sounds kind of weird. They added the terebi, so it's televi. Let's go next one.
You can say it, and I can
Right,
figure
once
it
you
out.
say it, you're almost there with the word.
It's
That's where it's helpful
identifying
to
the
learn.
katakana sometimes. It's not.
One or the other, right? So yeah, these will just have longer vowel sounds on the end.
So,
Which I have my paper. Right, su. Super. Super. What do you think?
Yay,
Right, super, right? A little bit different. Doesn't mean super. It means supermarket.
Because of the extra syllables?
Just because they shorten supermarket. If you wanted to say something is super, like actually super, like Superman is Superman. Superman. Like it has the same thing. But if you write just super, you're talking about the supermarket.
It's kind of like in British English. So I'm going to the super, I'll be like that. Right?
Going
But I
like
say the
yeah,
supermarket.
or like the like shops or something.
Yeah.
Like what shops? All of them.
Go to the super. I'll be right back. In a minute.
So that one's Right. Yeah. Yeah. You can just sometimes it helps to just give up what you're saying. You're like, where's the super? And then they'll know what you mean because you just don't say market. All right, let's give it another try. This one. Let's look at all the elements together. It's got two different 10 and a dash. Yes. De, ha, right there. Ha.
Department store.
Yes, it's department store. This is just like super. They didn't want to say store afterwards, so just department. And, I believe for these, for many of these words, it comes from the time when they popped up in Japan. Most of these words came around either during their westernization in like the late 1800s, early 1900s, or after World War II. So these words kind of came from when the first department store opened in Japan. That was a place of luxury. So it kind of became culturally like a niche thing a long time ago. Historically, you know, it would be the upper class that could shop at a department store. And once that trickles down to just the general language, they end up shortening it, making it their own word that everyone kind of recognizes.
Any idea when the department stores popped up in Japan?
I think those were much earlier than some of these other things, obviously earlier than television.
Maybe in the 70s, 80s?
No, I think earlier. I think
Earlier than that?
like 1890s might have seen the first department stores when Japan was going through its Meiji Restoration, going for like a proper Western look. Obviously, somewhere like London or Berlin had department stores.
Right.
Tokyo wanting to be, and Kyoto as well, wanting to be like, you know, big worldwide cities, but also invest in some department stores. I've never been to nice in Japan. I recommend checking them out as well. I know that in Hiroshima, one just totally normal looking department store has their Pokemon Center inside. And you can go and get like exclusive Pokemon merch. I think there's one in Shibuya in Tokyo that has a giant Mewtwo, like floating in a case, like he's like in the movies where he's like getting made. It's crazy. Yeah. So the department stores sometimes will have incredible like tourist locations in just a normal department store. All right, let's see. Next, this one is strictly pay attention to the direction of those lines. I'll give you a hint. These are not tectonic. Right, so we got the first she, ya, and su. The ya. The difference here is it's hard to tell. The ya is actually smaller than the other letters. So if you're doing she and a small ya, it's combining the two sounds. Sha. I think it's at the bottom of the page, when they do the combinations.
So it's a combo.
Yeah. It keeps keeps the H sound. So it's sha, su. Sha, su. When these combine, drop the Y because you're doing she and ya. And the I and the Y, same sound in Japanese. So they just go sha. Sha, su. Any guesses what that is? Not the Y. I think that one might be different, like shakto. This one is shirt. Shak. So they turn shirt, shatsu. Shatsu. And sometimes if you're buying a t-shirt, it'll be the English letter T, shatsu, in Japanese. So yeah, so it's really it's helpful because if you're just looking for something like, I don't know what that means, I'm in a clothing store, oh, there's a T, that's a t-shirt. T, shatsu. There's also different words like that, like a dress shirt isn't called like dores shatsu, it's called wai shatsu, and it comes from white shirt. Because obviously, you know, first dress shirts mostly going for only white.
And part
So-
of the uniforms tend to be white.
Right, yeah,
Dress shirts.
big on the white shirts. Other colors are a lot less common, even now. So they just took white and shirt, because all the dress shirts were white, combined that to wai shatsu, and that means dress shirt, confusingly enough. To add a color without any meaning. Okay, we've got some more. Oh, short one. Re. It's gonna be re. G. It's a she. The Sue looks more like a smiley face. I don't know how to change it. The Sue looks like a happier smiley face, and the she is more like veggie. So any guesses what veggie is? Oh, not ready, but close. I think ready will sound similar to that. It's not ready. So veggie. Oh no, that would be vedo. So I'll give you a hint, they're cutting off a lot here. There's a lot more coming off after veggie.
If it's not red or a name, like
Reggie, no. Rage, no. I think if your name was Reggie, you probably would write it like that, which would be funny, because this means cash register. Reggie, yeah. They took Reggie to register. That would be funny to meet someone named Reggie in Japan. People would be like, hey, Reggie, come on. Yeah, so cash.
probably like made fun of.
Yeah, they did that name.
That's like what my parents did.
Yeah, so we've got cash register. You see, they just cut the cash, cut the stir, Reggie. Some of these aren't very intuitive. Oh, here's a good one. Let's give this one a try. Beat. Right. Be-do, right? We got be-do. It's building. Building. All the signs line up that you think it's beer, but it's not.
How do you say beer? Now that we're on that subject. It's the next one.
What do you think this one is?
That was beer.
Right, this one is be-do.
That's right.
Well, you know, B doesn't two E's.
Exactly.
Yes.
Anything that helps remember it is definitely helpful. So, right, if you, and honestly, if you go to a bar and you say be-do or you say be-do, they know what you want because they're not going to serve you a building. But you will see plenty of buildings with the first one. It will say be-do, and you're like, oh, is this a bar? Do they sell? No, that's just, it'll be like, you know, the so-and-so building. Just all of them have names in the building. So it's really important distinction there. And actually, you guys saw this one pretty easily. It doesn't come from English. It comes from Dutch because the Dutch introduced beer to Japan first. It's still called beer, but it's spelled B-I-E-R. And it's pronounced funny because it's Dutch.
Yeah.
They go
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Probably, but the Dutch just got there first to Japan. So you can see some of these come from other languages, not particularly harder. Let's give this one a try. But some of them will be harder. I think that excludes the really hard ones.
On purpose.
It's just because it's too long to explain it. So pizza.
Pizza.
Yes, yeah. So pizza. That's a helpful one to know as well. Pizza.
We're gonna have some biru and pizza.
Right. Biru and pizza. It could be nothing's better. And if you say, you know, the normal American pronunciation where there's a random T in there, pizza, they say pizza. Pizza. Closer to the Italian, but really easy to figure out. And they'll know what you mean, even if you say pizza. Yeah.
So Italian pizza is not.
Yes.
So what is Japanese pizza?
Japanese pizza is a completely different third thing. So you can get American style pizzas in Japan. They have Domino's, they have Costco's with the giant pizzas. Totally possible to find it. It's just going to be more expensive. I know that I would have sometimes travel like 30 minutes by train to a different city just to have an American slice of pizza there. And one slice of pizza and a beer is $15. But I made the trip, so I'm not turning back. But that's.
Was it good? Was it good? Not American.
It was like they had Corona. It was like Sbarro, you know, it was just basic pizza. But it was handmade right there. I saw them make it, and it was an interesting crowd because people there were fans of New York style pizza, so they spoke English, and it's kind of a different.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a nice like subculture of Western food restaurant. So it's worth to try out, especially maybe not on like a 2-week trip. You won't be missing that much, but I was there for 2 years. I'm like, man, I just want a real slice of pizza. I'll go anywhere for it.
So what is their pizza?
Their pizza, well, usually we're looking at smaller sizes. They have their own kind of stores, like I think Royal Hat Pizza. I think it's trying to be like Pizza Hut, but I don't know if they're doing that. I think a pineapple is their logo, which tells you all you need to know about the pizza. I like it too, but they're going for uncommon toppings here. Another one I think is, what is it? Royal Hat. I forgot the other one. But yeah, they have pizza. It's going to be smaller sizes, and they're going to have weird toppings. There's like lettuce, I think is pretty common. Mushrooms is normal. Shrimp, anchovies, stuff like that. Other fish, like squid. You can get squid pizza. Carrots, you might find carrots on top of your pizza.
Crunchy? Or do they get salted?
Cooked carrot. What else do we have? A lot of weird stuff, like worth trying, but a lot of like mayonnaise and corn pizza as well. Worth trying, but maybe not your go-to pick.
mayonnaise and corn pizza.
Like just kernels of corn.
Crust and mayonnaise and corn?
So what do they use as a sauce?
Usually it'll be like a red sauce, but
Like marinara type?
the Japanese marinara.
Okay. Japanese marinara.
I think a great place to try it out if you don't want to go full in for like the other one is Pizza La. That's the other Pizza La is the other. So Royal Hat Pizza and Pizza La. If you just want to try it somewhere like an izakaya, something like that, we'll have usually some kind of pizza on the menu. You might get lucky to be like a flatbread or something, or you might get a clam and corn pizza. And it'll have the clams in the shell.
Wait, clams in the shell?
Yeah.
Okay, I won't try that.
It's a separate third thing. It's not like other pizza.
Little too difficult to cut.
Right. But the great joy of pizza in Japan is when you do find, some Japanese man who's dedicated to his life to studying in Italy and making authentic, Romana pizza or something. And then it's all worth it when you find a place like that. So just something to look out for. Okay, so this one's pretty easy. This one's kind of longer if you want to give this one a try. Okay, so if you stop there, it might be rest. Not so. It's just like so.
And
And yes,
I don't think that's like, no, not so.
not so. False accusation.
Wait, where's the
it's a restaurant?
Restaurants, yes. So when the word restaurant came to Japan, it came from the Europeans first, who took it from the French. So there's no, the pronunciation follows the French pronunciation instead of otherwise. Restaurant. We got a short one here next. Cool.
It looks like a triangle.
Oh yeah.
well, I'm fine.
Yeah, I think you said it.
Well,
Yeah, gomi. Gomi. And what do you think gomi is?
so
Gomi. So it's like gum. It doesn't, but it's not from English. So what it actually means, if you've heard gum in a different context, it rubber. They're talking about rubber. I think this one also came from Dutch. So they brought rubber and there's gold.
Like rubber's like your wellies?
Rubber, like just the material.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the whole, all of rubber is called gold. And actually
So I
similar,
guess would they refer to erasers as
yes, they
rubber?
do.
Because in Spanish, goma.
Right, yeah.
Goma.
And like the British people will call it
Like
rubber.
Right, I need a rubber.
Your rubber to erase things.
But they
So
also refer to
An eraser is also rubber.
different types of rubber.
Right. Yeah. But like rubber boots will be goma boots. Goma
Goma
boots.
boots.
Yeah. So that's helpful. You know. This one is a bit of a leap in meaning. Ba. Ba. Yes, good. Bai. Together, ba and e. Bai. More. Not more.
No, by key.
Close, but yeah, keep. Keep.
Like,
No, stop it right there. Hopefully. No, the word for bike is much longer. Bike. Yes, it's biking. So how does that sound to you? Biking.
Biking.
Ah, right. It sounds like biking, like cycling.
biking.
It sounds like biking.
Like
Close.
biking.
Biking, yeah, like a lead biking. It means buffet. The,
Oh.
yeah, the end is just
Where
short.
like the end and then.
The logic here is that I believe in the 1950s, a hotel manager took a trip to Sweden and he tried a smorgasbord. And he thought, oh, what a great idea. I'll bring that to my hotel. No way he's translating smorgasbord, right? With all the vowels and everything. So he thought, okay, it's from Sweden. What else is from Sweden?
The Vikings.
Vikings. So he called it Viking. He brought the buffet to his hotel and marketed it as being from Sweden, so it's Viking. And sometimes it would be like Viking restaurant, Viking meal, something like that. If there are other words for buffet, you might just hear buffet, something like that. There's also something called tabe hodai. Tabe hodai, that's a good one to know. That means all you can eat in Japanese. So tabe, T-A-B-E, hodai is H-O-U-D-A-I. Tabe hodai. Hodai.
Again.
Tabe hodai. And there's also a very nice kind of brother to that one is the nomi hodai, all you can drink. And those are very good deals.
No me joda.
Nomi. It's either nome or nomi hodai. I always just said nomi hodai.
All you can do.
All you can drink. Usually the way those work would be like some very small fee for a time limit of alcohol. So it'll be like you can pay for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of all you can drink.
That's kind of dangerous.
It's irresponsible, but the restaurants will just start watering down your drinks and taking a long time to bring it. If you go and you're like 3 hours right now and you start going crazy, very soon you're getting watery beers and they're taking 30 minutes to come out with the next one. So it's not fully like crazy, but it's still a good deal. And usually you can get both together, tabe hodai and nomi hodai for like a combo deal. And you just get a bunch of food, get a bunch of drink for really cheap prices. And it's nice because you know exactly how long the meal is going to take. If you pay for 2 hours, you'll do it in 2 hours. You don't have to worry about that. Or 1 hour. I don't know if they go less than that, like 30 minutes. Might take too long to get the food out. Yeah. So that's a good one. This one is a word you might see very often. And it is written in katakana. You probably already know this. Yeah, ka. Yeah.
Those trees. The trees get me every time.
Kada.
O,
Oh,
karaoke.
yes, it's karaoke. Karaoke.
Karaoke.
So this one, karaoke, yeah, karaoke. Little asterisk. This one is half Japanese, half loanword, but they write it all in katakana because that's what kara. So the kara is Japanese and it means empty, same as karate means empty. And the oke, really big stretch here, comes from orchestra. So orchestra, karaoke, empty orchestra, kind of what karaoke is. It's just the music, with the lyrics, and you sing along to the songs. So I don't want to take up too much time going over.
Oh, we're actually 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
6:12.
Yeah. I have like 3 more slides, so I'll just go over them very quickly.
Yes.
Talk about onomatopoeia are very common in Japanese and they're used all the time. And more than just kind of the sounds that we might relate to it in English, they express sounds, feelings, actions, textures, emotions. And I mean feelings like sometimes physical feelings like touch and such. So there are a lot. There's over 1,000 different onomatopoeia in Japanese. Sometimes they're repetitive, which means they just repeat the same thing twice, and that we'll go to that. Some of them are repetitive, some of them are not. And they're not all in katakana, but many of them are. So if you kind of see repeated, like 2 letters repeated twice, and that's usually going to be an onomatopoeia. And unless you already know what it is, it's going to be a little bit hard to figure out the meaning. So just really quickly, I have some examples you can try to figure out what they are. I have 5 different things here being expressed. I have 5 different ones. I think the way this is shown, for the sake of time, I'll just tell you what they are, the reading, and then we can go over the meaning. So these are,
These are 1 through 10 on the free sheet.
oh yeah, just if you want to. So we have 1, pika pika, pika pika. Right. It's like what Pikachu says. Oh, maybe that'll give you a hint to what it might mean.
Is it the C?
See?
The C.
Oh yeah.
No,
Not quite.
I want to say the clap, clap, but that's this thing.
So we have pika pika, gari gari, kira kira, pachi pachi, and waki waki.
Isn't Kira so
Yeah, I think it also means that, but it's like this. It's not saying killer killer, right? It means something else. That's confusing enough. Where you'll know something means something, but it means something else when it's written like this. So we can kind of go over it.
Shine.
So for pika pika, this, confusingly enough, so you think of Pikachu, you think of like electricity. Pika pika means bright.
B.
Right, so it's going to be B light bulb. The light bulb is pika pika. So we have, that's number 2, gari gari. Gari gari. You think of gari gari.
That sounds like Goo Gaga.
It sounds like it. It sounds. I don't know how baby sounds are in Japanese. Let's see what. So, gari gari is the onomatopoeia for something crunchy, and it is the ice cream. Yeah. So that the popsicle is kind of, it's made of ice, it's crunchy, and this is a very popular ice cream in Japan. It's called gari gari kun, and it's got a picture of a little boy biting that ice cream, and he's like, he's got like, ooh, it's so cold, so it's gari gari. And crunchy things like ice and stuff is gari gari.
Kira, kira.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Kira kira. Sometimes maybe I have to just like say it over and kira kira, kira kira.
See?
Kira kira.
The happy child.
Kira kira, it means like brilliant. So it's going to be the diamond. Yeah, it's like dazzling. Kira kira. That one you can use for like personality. Someone's always smiling, energetic, there. Kira kira. So next we have pachi pachi. Yes, it's
Pachi
the,
pachi, paksu.
yeah, it's like clapping. So sometimes we'll go to like an event in Japan and if people aren't like, look at our great new Toyota car. Nobody says anything. It's like pachi pachi pachi. And it's telling people to clap. So, so once you have waku waku, so that would be it's C. Waku waku means excited. Waku waku. So that is
Waku waku about going to Japan.
exactly, yeah, you can say really waku waku. I think in the anime Spy Family right now, the little girl character always says waku waku because she's very excited about everything. She's like 6 years old. Yeah. So next we have FGHIJ. So first, Toki Doki, Fua Fua, Wan Wan, Kushu, and Gatan Gatan. Right, yes. So like I said, some of them aren't always in katakana. You could express this one in katakana. But if you looked on your sheet, the fu and the wa look exactly the same. It's very hard to differentiate fu and wa in katakana. So that is to say, hey, just put it in some of these might be a little easier to guess, or maybe you've heard it before. So how about Doki Doki? Does anyone know Doki Doki? Huh?
What?
No.
Doki
They could be any,
doki.
all of them could be any of them. No, not the train.
Cough, cough.
Yeah. You got
Jay?
it. Doki Doki is the sound of a beating heart. Doki Doki, particularly like an excited heartbeat. Yeah. Right. So it's used to express like falling in love, things like that, like butterflies. I think it's Doki Doki. It means your heart's beating fast.
What is the eye? What is that? Is that just a pink chicken?
Oh yeah, fluffy little bird or something.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's 7. Fua fua. Fua fua. Kind of imagine in your mind the sounds of fua fua.
Clap, clap.
Close, close. Yeah, I think you're on the right mark. It is it is the little bird.
Like a chirp, chirp.
Fua fua means fluffy. It's soft, fluffy.
Clap, clap,
So fua fua.
clap, clap.
And even the sound is a very soft sound. There's no hard consonants on it, it's just fua fua. And number 8, we have wan wan.
That would be the dog.
That's the dog barking. Wan wan. So instead of bark bark,
One, one.
wan wan.
One. Bark, bark.
So that's kushu.
Will be the J.
Kushu. Yes, kushu is J. That is the sound of someone sneezing. So they don't say achoo, they say kushu. Not kushu. And
And
lastly, number 10, gatan gatan.
will be the like the
Yeah,
the-
it's kind of the whole thing. It's a sound that means clattering, like big clattering noise. Yeah, they do sound. It sounds exactly like that going over. It's like yeah. So it's kind of both the train and the train thing. They're all just big
The clap.
clattering noises. Even the signal, when it goes down, it's like a bell. It's like the whole kind of experience is like that. So some of them are like kind of close to what you might expect. And that's everything. For homework, it's just reviewing everything, keeping up. Look back on the research we have and get it on katakana.
Come on.
Yeah, we do have a lot of resources to go over, so it should be good for a few months. Yeah.
I think that one sounds what sound should a rooster make?
Oh, yeah. Animal sounds are different. So instead of like cock-a-doodle-doo for a rooster, they go kokke-kokko. Kokke-kokko. There's a lot of double ones in there too. I think that
Mexico is
right, yeah. So they it's everything. All the animals use different sounds. Some of them are easy to guess, but kokke-kokko. I guess you could guess that it's a rooster. All right. that's
Now you're
all I have.
correct.
Yeah. So if you thought of any questions and you write them down, go ahead and bring them in. I'll include them in when we come back. So everybody, thanks for coming. Thanks for putting in the time here.